Welcome to the Transformational Storyteller Podcast. The stories we tell ourselves and others shape the lives we lead. I'm your host, Dara Lise Lyons. My guest today, Faatimah Curry, is a phenomenal woman. She is powerful, she is impactful. She's doing tremendous things in the world of eating disorder recovery and personal empowerment and mental health, helping women, all women, but specifically women of color. And I'm just really excited to hear her story and learn what she has to say about where she's come from and where she's headed.
Hi everybody, my name is Faatimah Curry. I currently am from Philadelphia. I also grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and so I am so excited to be here. When I was about 8 years old, I moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania to a boarding school, but before that, my life was pretty traumatic. I dealt with a lot of abuse and just neglect as a child, but also understanding that I believe that I was designed and created for more. And so when I went to Milton Hershey School, I was dealing with a lot of trauma and stuff like that, and I wasn't able to express that. And so that's what kind of led me to have an eating disorder. But I also was a kid that was super cheerful, super happy, and but still having that underlining issues and trauma that I was never really able to talk about. And so growing up, I was just going through the flow, being an athlete, being a student athlete, being the best version of myself. And so when I got to high school, I was just trying to just make it by. And so when I graduated, I realized that I needed to get help. I also started to follow the Lord at that time too. So I also wanted to seek healing. And I think that's why I'm here, is to provide and share my story of encouragement and to push women of color or just women in general to seek help, and also that it's okay to talk about the pain and the ugly, and understanding that there is so much more to come and there is so much greatness from your story. And so that's why I believe I'm here.
Both Faatimah and I we're proud alumni of the Renfrew Center in Philadelphia, which the Renfrew Center is one of the nation's leading centers that helps women and girls with eating disorders to recover their lives and empower themselves. If you or a loved one is suffering from an eating disorder, or even just suspects that you might have issues regarding food, the Renfrew Center can be an invaluable resource. They have a number of centers located throughout the U.S., helping women both on an inpatient and an outpatient basis, and they are sponsoring this episode, and I just cannot say enough wonderful things about them. They gave me my life back, and they gave Faatimah her life back as well. So if you want more information about them or what they do, go to www.renfrewcenter.com or call 1-800-RENFREW, that's RENFREW, for more information, because you don't have to suffer in silence. Faatimah, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. No, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to hear more about your story, because I relate a lot to carrying things from childhood and then having them impact you and not even necessarily knowing why or what was happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit more about the circumstances that led to you going away at 8 years old?
Yeah, so my parents were never together, but my dad was super active in my life. And so I have 3 half brothers as well. So all of us and I also have a twin sister. So it was pretty much a full house, random animals too, which I don't know why. But, and so growing up, I was also the oddball out. So I knew I was different. I knew that I seen and dealt with things differently than my siblings have. And so I kind of was oh, I'm gonna fend for myself, or being this mood or this mode of like, it's all about me, because of the trauma that happened of just like abuse from my mom's boyfriend and like things like that. And so being the older twin, I kind of like took the hit, kind of just like threw myself in there to like protect my sister. And so at the age of 8, really my mom needed help. She was just like, I don't have the resources. I don't have any money. My mom was working as a bartender, but still wasn't really, because she had to take care of the bills and stuff. And so we just kind of was making by. And so there was a great opportunity for us to go away. And I actually was really excited. I cried a little bit, but I was like, man, I kind of knew that deep down, like there was something better out there for me. And I knew also everybody wasn't going through the same thing. So I was just like, I want to experience something better and greater. And so we went to Mount Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And it was like the best thing in the world for me. My sister would probably say it a little differently, but I like took that in and just like loved every bit of it.
Right. Were you I mean, and I want to ask you more about that, but were you an identical or fraternal twin?
Fraternal. And so I'm 11 minutes older.
Okay.
Yeah. So my sister and I did a lot of things together, but we also, again, we're very different. And so we see the world differently. We kind of interact with people differently. She's an introvert, I'm an extrovert. And like, we love each other so much, but we also just handle life completely different.
Right, and that has to be very, like, I mean, it is your experience, so I know you probably don't know any different, but like, I just imagine myself and what it would be like growing up parallel to someone. And so how was that for you?
A lot of it was really almost easy because we didn't really know any better, but also it was very hard because we just saw things differently. I knew that like there was better out there. She was kind of like, well, this is our reality. This sucks. Like, we're going to be in this forever. And I just couldn't get to that place of that. I was just like, there's no way. There has to be something better out there for us as siblings, but also individually. And so I was almost that hope barrier for the both of us, because I really do believe and did believe even at the age of 8 that I was created for more, and I was designed to like help people and lead people in a way. And so I think there was a moment where I tried to convince my sister of that, but she's like, Faatimah, that's just you, and so I kind of just ran with that process and that thought.
Well, plus if you're an introvert, which she was, and I'm sort of like an ambivert, so there are times when I'm introverted and times when I'm not.
Exactly.
But like, if you're an extrovert, then I think there is that inner quest to create this outward connection and find something different or something else.
Exactly. And I was always almost like I love to go and meet people and talk to people and just like kind of also be super like out there. But also I realized that there was moments where I was like, I don't really feel comfortable in this situation or things like that. So my sister and I, where she was like, I can sit in the house by myself for like 8 hours and be okay. Where I'm just like, no, we have to go out there. Let's make friends. Let's like do something together. Let's like impact the world. And she's like, no thanks.
Right. Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, and then you were away. You were at school.
Yeah.
You talked about that was when your eating disorder developed.
Yeah. And so I lived in a home with 12 girls. And we had this thing called like house parents. And so they were employed by the school, and their mission is to support us and help us, almost lead us like parents. And so, but also not replacing our parents. And so it was really easy for me to like be left alone because I was an extrovert. I was also very much independent. And so I kind of just did, and I was also an athlete too. And so I was always gone, and I was never really home. And so I was able to like hide myself with the food, or I would eat by myself, or I would not eat at all. And so, but no one really saw that, because it's like, oh, Faatimah, like she's an athlete, she's always like out and about, she's fine. And so, but really I wasn't, because there was something going in through me, and I was just like, I need to release that. But also I had this weird body image kind of thing stirring up inside me, being a young girl, also developing way faster than a lot of girls my age as well. And so that's kind of how it like triggered.
Wow. And so I relate so much in terms of, developing an eating disorder, but for me, that process was such a process of like isolation from people and withdrawing from society. And so it seems like for you, it looked so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how has that, like, how do you think that either made things easier or harder that you are more of a person who connects with others? Like,
I think it was almost easier because I would always put the focus on other people. And so I was like, be so invested in some other people. And I actually almost like forgot about me. And I was like, if I like don't think about myself, I'm okay. Like, and when I start to dwell, and when I had those quiet moments by myself and I start to dwell on my past, start to think like, this is not fair, like life isn't fair, why did this happen? Then I really started to go downhill. But if I like, almost like, let me just throw myself out there, just like make it about other people. But it also ended up being really hard because I can't pour from an empty cup. And I also was like, wait, I'm caring a lot about other people, but I'm neglecting my own mental health, my own heart, my own soul. And then it actually really did not go very well as I thought.
Yeah. And in a way you were hiding out too, just in a very public way.
It was just like, oh, Faatimah, like almost like the star of the show, or like things like that. And I like fed off of that. But I was like, I was nervous if like, if you got to know me, like, and know my story, it was ugly, it was traumatic, and I was just like, no one wants to see that side of Faatimah. And so I actually believed that lie for so long.
Yeah, right, and then fed that to yourself, and then because you weren't sharing,
right,
you had no counteracting voices.
Exactly.
Right. So I want to hear a little bit more about sort of, you spoke about school being one of the best things that ever happened to you, but it was also running alongside that was this really negative thing that was going on between you and you. So how do you reconcile those?
Right, that's a great question. I think a lot of it was I had the support system, I just never used them. And so I had my mentor who kind of just like fell into mentorship, and in high school, where she kind of like took me under her wing, and her husband was my math teacher, so I like hated math, but I did well in everything else. I was just like, this is so dumb, I'm not gonna even need it. And so she kind of came in and was like, hi, like I'm so and so, like thank you, so like let me get to know you, essentially. And I was like, this is weird, I'm like a freshman in high school, like I'm not gonna be BFFs with a teacher. But outside of school, and when I started to find a community that like loved the Lord and really started to like serve children, and I was like, knew I wanted to work with children in some way, and she took me in and kind of was like, this is my life, and how would you feel if we did life together? And that's when I kind of was like, wait, this is true, like about God, that he like can heal us, or like, if I came to him, he can hear my prayers, or like that's actually true. And so she's like, yeah, but if anything, like I want to do life with you, and I want to help you. I don't know everything, and my life looks different than yours, and I'm not here to compare our lives, but I'm actually here to support it. Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing that you found someone that could love you that much, not even know you, but just love you in advance.
Exactly. And I was just like, it was so frightening, because this is a woman who is white, and I was just like, that's weird. Like, I'm not even close to my mom, like, and so why would you love me? Like, in that thought process. And she really showed me and gave me that unconditional love that I've actually never really experienced. And that's when I kind of knew that the way she loved people is the way I could essentially love myself and other people.
Right. Yeah. Right. And the way that God loves
you. Yeah, exactly. And I know that God is kind of like taboo to talk about nowadays, but I found it to be special to me, but not just special. Like, I really believe that like he like healed me and led me to so many years of just like pursuing wholeness and talking about the trauma and seeking counsel and going to a therapist and things like that. Like, I knew I needed to talk about this because it wasn't going to just heal in a day. Right. It wasn't going to just be, but it's going to be about being intentional. And I love that saying that like, it takes time to heal, but I also believe that it's all about being intentional with your healing and things like that.
Well, and I love that you talk about sort of, because I think sometimes what happens with spirituality, or at least that's been my experience, is that sometimes people think that like, oh, God can heal everything, or spirit can heal, or the universe, like all I have to do is think positively and everything will be good, or pray. And like, my experience is that whether you're a spiritual person or not,
Exactly.
like there's a certain amount of faith and a certain amount of work,
Yeah.
and they have to kind of go together.
That's exactly right. Like, I think sometimes I grew up kind of thinking like, I'm just gonna wait hands and feet on God and just like, he'll do everything for me. But I also had to go find it. I also had to go seek help. That like, it didn't just come find me, you know? And so I like realized I had to call the Renfrew Center. I knew I had to like go into treatment, and I had to live there for X amount of months and start digging at the things I had built up. Yeah.
So when in your timeline did you come to that realization that you really needed help?
Yeah. And so I was actually getting ready to go on a missions trip, and I was like super excited to go, but I had to go to the doctor to get some paperwork and get some blood work.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the doctor, and I don't know if I prayed. I don't even know if I like asked God to like help me, but I do remember going in, getting my weight done, and then sitting just ready to go home. And then my doctor, it was like my primary care doctor, an assistant, and a nurse all come in. I was like, what is happening? And all of them sit down and just like, hey, you've been here a couple times and something's not really looking right. And I was like, explain, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like also in denial. I'm like, what are they talking about? But also I knew that there's something inside of me that was like, wait, there is something wrong with me with food.
Yeah.
And then the grand question that my doctor asked is like, well, like, how do you see yourself? Like, do you love yourself essentially? And I just remember like sobbing. And that's when I never, ever really trusted anybody like that, especially my primary care doctor, where I haven't even seen her for years. And she's like, you're here, you're back, you know? And then she kind of just went in already and just like, do you love yourself? Like, how do you see yourself? And I was like, I don't, you know? And that's when I knew that she gave me a card. She's like, I heard a really great place, good things about the Renfrew Center. Here's a card. And I remember going home by myself and just kind of like, with my phone and the card, and it's like, God, like, tell me, do I need to go get help? And like this, I felt like he said, go. Yeah. And I remember calling, and it's just like, I think I have an eating disorder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So it was like your illusions were completely shattered. Yeah.
I was like, that was nuts to actually like, almost felt like a movie, just like with literally my cell phone and the Renfrew Center card. And I was like, if I don't get help, I literally thought this, if I don't get help, I'm gonna die.
Oh yeah, and you might have.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And then so you said that you weren't really that close to your mom, and you grew up with this traumatic childhood. So how did your family, was your family involved in you getting help at all? Or?
Yes and no. I kind of went to treatment like secretly, and so I was living with my mom, and I was also in school, so I had really long days. But I wouldn't come home. I would leave the house at like 7 and won't come home until like 11. And my mom didn't really ask questions at first, but she just started like, it was a month in, and I was an outpatient, and so I had to travel out there and so come back on the train. And so she's like, was so upset, and she like, why are you coming home so late? Like, what is happening? Like, kind of accusing me of things. And that's when I was like, I was so scared to tell her what I was doing. And I just like flat out, like in my head, I was talking to my therapist, and like, I want to tell my mom, but what is the right way to do it? And it was not the right way to do it, because we were both angry and just not in a good mood. And I was like, well, I'm going to treatment for eating disorder. And she's like, what is that? And I had to explain. And there was a moment where I didn't even know what eating disorder was still. And I was like, how do I actually tell somebody who absolutely has no idea what an eating disorder is when I kind of still don't really know? So that was like the weird kind of like, I kind of like told you, I don't know what to really say anymore.
Right.
And so I kind of told my mom, like, that's what I have this, and I'm seeking help right now. And she was also very confused, because that's when like the stigma of mental health kind of like started to like, you know, come up. It was just like, what do you mean you're sick? Like, you're fine. Yeah, that thought.
And what do you think is behind the stigma of mental health? Because I think about that too. Like, why? Like, what is the deal with people not getting it and feeling like, and having judgments around it. So
Right.
what was that like for you?
I think personally, I never heard anybody go through stuff. Like I've never heard it like out of someone's mouth in my family. Like I saw the actions of mental health. I saw the alcohol abuse, the abuse of other things and things like that. So I knew that like, that's not really right. Why are you doing this? But no one would actually say like, I have depression. I can't get out of bed. I have a drinking problem because of trauma or things like that. I have a drug problem. And so I've never heard anybody in my family say that until me.
Yeah.
And so everybody was like, they was like, what is happening, Faatimah? Like, what's going on? My whole family was in this big uproar. And I just like, in my head, I was like, because no one talked about it. No one actually
And meanwhile, there was all this evidence that there were those issues, but no
one spoke, because it was almost that thought process like, I'm just gonna keep going. Like I have to provide for my family, I have to go to work, I have to do all these things, like life goes on, and so I'm just gonna ignore it. And then that's when I knew the power of sharing your story, because I remember sitting in my brother's room and I told him like, I'm getting help, and he like literally confides in me and was like, Faatimah, I think I had depression for like 10 years.
Wow.
And never even told a soul. You know, and so I love to believe that this is such a blessing, because it allowed my family to come to me. And I'm like 23, I'm like, I don't really know anything. And so, but I was like, wait, maybe I don't need to really share my opinions. I actually need to listen.
Yes.
Because I think essentially like we all want to be heard. And so I think that's what led me to sharing my testimony, but also people have come to me and I just been able to listen.
Yeah. And being able to like be a beacon of truth, like for people, because I know when I called my family, I was in my 17th maybe inpatient hospitalization for the eating disorder, when I finally started telling my extended family. My mom knew, and you know, my sister, but started calling aunts and uncles and telling them, and they were all like, oh, we had no idea. We knew there was something, but we had no idea what it was. And they thought it was them, like that I didn't love them anymore or whatever it was. And it was such a healing experience to be able to really just tell the truth. And then 1000%. And so talk a little bit about like your relationship then with spirituality and how that has helped in your recovery. And
and so I kind of I was an outpatient, and that was new. I was like, I have to eat 3 meals a day and plus snacks. Like that's dumb in my head. And so I remember going through that process and also getting ready to go on this mission trip. So there was a part of me that really felt like I couldn't go on this mission trip because I was not healthy enough. And I remember my therapist pretty much saying that, but then there was a nudge of, I like to call it like the Holy Spirit, and saying like, you're gonna go and you're just gonna go and experience children and have fun and play soccer with them and get to love on them. And I remember going, and I can honestly say I did not have an eating disorder thought. When I was there. I ate all the food. I was in touch with my hunger cues. That may be like weird for people who don't know about eating disorders, but hunger cues and full cues. And I was just like, I believe that was a taste of freedom when I was there. And so when I came back, and it was only for a week, and when I came back, I was like, I need to pursue recovery, because that's the freedom that I wanted. And I do give all glory to God, but I also realized that I had to keep showing up, and I had to give my all to this, and I had to talk about the hard thing. Every session, every group session, every therapy session, I wanted to do that.
Well, and when you talk about like that taste of freedom, my experience of everything in life, whether it be recovery or like anything, is that there are these moments where it's just like, oh, like I get it, you know, like I get what it is. I've tasted this freedom or whatever. And then it's not always that way, you know. There are moments when the urges come back, or the thoughts, or the self-defeating messages or whatnot. But having that as a touchstone can be so impactful. Yeah, and then when I came back, I was like on fire. I was ready to go, and then like, you know, life comes back, and you're in it again, and just like, wait,
I don't feel that same thing when I was there. And I was like, wait, and that's when I realized that like recovery is not a feeling. And that's when I was like, recovery is a pursuit that you can keep going after it. And you're not always gonna feel like showing up. You're not always gonna feel like talking. You're not gonna always feel like honestly eating. But if that's a conscious choice you're making, it's like recovery is a choice, and I'm gonna do it, because that freedom that I tasted, I want it again.
Yes.
But I want it forever.
Yeah. And I think that's not just true of recovery from an eating disorder, but like in life, right? If someone has a vision for what they want for their lives in any area, whether it be work, home, family, food, whatever, it's like you get the vision, make that committed choice, take those actions, and it's not always going to be linear either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've learned even in recovery as well, that it's not this linear straight path. Like it's like roller coaster. You're really gonna have days where you're like, I don't want to be here, I'm gonna sign myself out. Things like that, and I'm like able to. And then there's those days where I like, no man, I'm gonna actually eat my food, and I'm gonna actually enjoy this, and I'm actually gonna talk about it, and I'm not gonna waste anybody's time. But I do believe that like recovery is a journey that a lot of women that I've been able to encounter have like been on. And so it's been really special.
So what does life for you look like now that you've really taken yourself on in this way? Like, what is your life like now?
I really, when I was in recovery, I really felt led to support women, whether women of color, whether women in general, through this process, because I was in a residential home, the Renfrew Center, and so I was with tons of women, all ages and colors and things like that. And I was like, we need more of that. We need more of a body of women that like are literally pushing each other forward to recovery. And so I really felt that was what I was gonna do, a little, not like a full-time job or anything, but something that I can like invest in as well while I'm still like in school and doing other things. And so I was praying and I was like, God, I want to lead a group or something like that. And then he was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, that sucks. I'm gonna keep going. And then I came onto this program for mentorship for women of eating disorders. So right now I am in the mentorship training process, and it's been awesome to read the 8 recovery steps of eating disorder. I forget, I totally butchered that. But reading the workbook and doing studies and things like that. And so hopefully in September, I'll have a girl, whoever, to mentor and do life with.
That's so cool. Which is exactly, we've come full circle. That's what you had as a young girl. Yeah. Which is, sometimes it's weird for me. I feel like life, God, the universe, whatever, like sets up these sets of circumstances where we come back to exactly where we were meant to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that.
And you can't, like, or at least I can't ever see it coming until I like realize, oh, no, this is it.
Exactly.
Like, isn't that great?
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny. I had like a little special moment yesterday. One of my good friends reached out to me via Instagram, and she said that one of her friends relapsed, and so she's back into recovery and treatment and stuff. And she's like, yeah, I was on the Renfrew Center site looking for the hours or like things I can go visit her or whatever. And she's like, I stumbled upon your testimony, and I like listened to it, and it was such an inspiration, a hope that I have for her. And she was like, any tips, anything, any advice I can give to my friend who's in recovery. And so that's when I even know that like even sharing our video testimonies almost a year ago, if not, it's been a year, I didn't really know what the outcome was gonna be. But in that moment of just like, wow, this is so worth it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, because if you can save one person, even just a fraction of the pain that you went through. Yeah. And for me, telling my story also helps me to like be really honest with myself about like, how am I doing with recovery, and am I in it, and what do I need to do to stay in it, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So there's always those check-ins, like how am I doing? I still like have to, meal prep and things like that. Like, but I'm also I love going out to eat now, and it's not even about the food, and it's not even about like what's on the menu. I used to be a big person on that. Like, tell me the location, what time we're gonna be there. I need to look at the menu, and it's like I don't even do that anymore because now I actually care about the people I'm with, and I'm actually in tune with them, and so it's really good. There's moments when like life is getting really stressful, and I was like, I'm not going back to that, so I need to take a break. I need to like step away from something. I need to like say no to something and just kind of come back and do that self-care that we all need.
Right, absolutely. And finding that, navigating that, that's still something that I struggle with, navigating the balance between like being part of the world and like taking time for me. And I mess it up at least once a week. I don't know.
And sometimes I'm like, I'll hit a wall. I'm just like, whoa, like, that really sucked. Like where am I? And having those moments of just like, I'm okay. Like I still have a support system that I call when I'm like either stressed out or like I'm freaking out right now. I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk through this out loud. And my support system has changed a little bit over the years, but it's been pretty solid. And so still having those people.
Right. And so what is I think the commitment to recovery is a lifelong commitment.
Yep.
But like, what is your commitment in terms of moving forward? Like, what's the thing that you're working towards now in your life that maybe is separate from recovery, but you're just like, this is the thing that I want in my life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think something that I'm always looking towards is just being a better version of me. There's different versions of everybody in different seasons of life. And so I think I had a really hard season in the beginning of the new year. Like I had a lot of disappointment, and I was just like kind of back to back over the months. And I was just like, this sucks. And actually to say that out loud, like life is not fair. And I am not I don't owe anything to anybody, but I'm also like, no one owes me anything. And so like understanding that, and I was just like, wait, I actually want to be a better version of Faatimah. How can I pursue that? And so that looks like me pursuing like wholesomeness and just being a whole person and doing the things that I love. And that is literally just hanging out with people, eating really good food, watching great shows, and just like sleeping and just like doing the things that I love to do to keep me centered and grounded.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, and so let's say that someone is either struggling with an eating disorder or wants to sort of get help with mental health issues, or just wants to share. They heard something about your story and it resonated with them. How do people get in contact with you?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, first I would actually say like go onto the NIDA website. They have so many like resources and so many like NIDA walks and like things that if you want to get involved or you want to seek help, I would totally go there.
And I just want to say, so NIDA, for anyone who's not familiar, is the National Eating Disorder Awareness website, and it's NEDA. And if they Google that, it'll come up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Also, you can, if you want to talk to me personally, you can DM me. It's Teams, but you can type in my name, Faatimah Curry. It's gonna pop up, or you can use my email. Can we say our email?
Yeah.
curryfaatimah@gmail. So literally just my last name, first name @gmail.
And spell Faatimah for anyone who's not.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Faatimah, FAATIMAH @gmail.com.
Awesome.
And I would love to talk to you, support you, ultimately listen to whatever you're going through.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put all that in the show notes so that people can reach out and get connected. And then something else that I always ask all my guests, because this is a podcast about using stories to transform. I feel like every story has some sort of like message or theme or moral. So like, let's say I was to pick up a book about your life, like what would the message that you wanted me to walk away with be? Like, what message do you want your story to communicate?
That's so great. I would communicate, if someone picked up a book about me and they saw it, I would say, choose the hard thing because it's so worth it.
Choose the hard thing because it's so worth it. I feel like you just gave me like a homework assignment that I really need. No, but like to think about, because there are some hard things, and I was talking to some friends about this recently. Like there's some things in my life that I avoid. I avoid the things I'm not good at.
Exactly.
So, like, what are the things that I'm not good at that I want to really choose and commit to?
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
Right. And then the more you do the hard thing, the more it actually becomes natural.
Yeah. And your comfort zone expands. And often the thing that we avoid is something that like life is going to bring us up against that again and again and again until we do it, until we figure it out. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. It's literally my honor. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. This was really great.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm a huge proponent of using stories to heal and overcome, using personal narrative, and also just reading in general. So one of the sponsors of the Transformational Storyteller podcast is Loving Healing Press. They are a phenomenal press that primarily focuses on stories of personal empowerment and also self-help books. So if you want to take advantage of the generous 15% off offer that they are extending to all the Transformational Storyteller listeners and viewers, go to www.lhpress.com and enter the coupon code DARALYSE15 for 15% off at checkout. That's DARALYSE and the number 15 for 15% off.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Transformational Storyteller podcast. As always, thanks to our episode sponsors, our production team at Rebel Hill Consulting, and of course, many thanks to you, the listener. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're creating stories that empower you and inspire others.